Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Nick Gralewicz for a game of Home. Home is a map-making RPG of kaiju versus mecha that puts you into the boots of a mech pilot who must protect their home from an invading kaiju army. It is a story-forward game of action, exploration, hope, and loss in which you build your home, you prepare for battle, you build your bases, and then, when the moment of truth comes, you stare down a kaiju in a deadly showdown that will destroy your home if you lose. The single word I would use to describe this game is cool. I think that it's a wonderful experience. I had such fun building a map and imagining a world, and you really get so deep into the experience of embodying characters and imagining a world, and then the actual fight itself is big and splashy and flashy and exciting. The game rules. I had such fun with playing it. I think you're going to love listening to the game that we played. You can find more information about Home at deepdarkgames.itch.io or check the show notes for more information. Now, currently, for another week at the time of this episode release, Nick has another game on Kickstarter that has absolutely exploded, and that is A Perfect Rock, a planet-building adventure RPG in which you explore the stars, make planets from rocks, and find a place to call home. And you can find more information about A Perfect Rock also in the show notes. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am so excited. I am sitting down today with Nick Gralewicz. Nick, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Hey, Jeff. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here as well. Thanks for inviting me.
I think this is going to be great. This game looks so much fun. I am so excited. It's really scratching some itches for me. And speaking of, why don't you take a moment at the top of our episode to let our lovely listeners at home know about what we are playing this week, as well as anything else you've got going on that you might want them to know about.
Yeah, so today we're going to play Home. Home is a map-making RPG where you are a mech pilot who is defending their home from a kaiju invasion. It's a GM-less role-playing game, and really it's designed to tell a story that's kind of like Pacific Rim, if you're familiar with that kind of vibe, like big stompy robots, big monstrous monsters, but really it's the story of the pilot, right? What does the pilot do to save their home?
You're speaking my language. You're speaking my language. You're revving my engine. I am stoked. I've got everything in front of me. Let me ask you this. What is it about today's game or about the game in general that you are excited about? What is it that brings you to Home as a game? What's got you excited to be playing this week? What are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, so Home has a lot of things that I love in role-playing games. The beginning part is a lot about world building, and I think collaborative world building your characters. I think some of that's the most fun that I have in games. I love that collaborative world building aspect. So I'm really excited to play that with you. But there's also this map making aspect, and it's too bad that your listeners won't be able to see it exactly, but I love drawing on maps. I love the idea of leaving a legacy, leaving an artifact of play. I don't know, there's something about the scale of a big map when you're fighting kaiju. I think that's the only thing that works, right? You're not taking off hit points of a adventurer or something. You're destroying cities and countries. It's a different scale. So I don't know. I feel like those are some of the fun things that I like about it.
I'm stoked. I'm feeling exactly the same way. I got the listeners, the episode art for the episode, and also it'll be on the actual website page. We'll have the map in front of us, so you
Amazing.
can see. Once we've got it laid out, you'll see the finished product. But I am so stoked. I love a good map making. I love the act of making an object in play. There's something really magical about that. There's a real energy to this is the artifact. This is the thing that lasts and that lives on after we have made the game. And I'm realizing how special that is and how special it is to have that really concrete reminder of the story that we told together.
I find that sometimes I'll just toss these artifacts of play into a drawer, and then you open up that drawer 2 years later, and it all comes flooding back, right? You remember.
You just feel it again. You feel the magic again of oh, right, this is, and then you look at the little details and you're like, oh, I did make that choice. It's a really wonderful feeling.
Totally.
All right. Well, we've got our characters. We've got our map in front of us. You have already built your character. We're going to go through the character creation process for my pilot, and then we will start to build out our map.
Yeah, so let's start. Just before we start, I just want to remind folks where we're going to start in this story. Kind of like Pacific Rim, we're starting 1 year after that first kaiju attacked, right? So this is kind of the impetus why all the mechs were built, why we're having to do this whole thing. So consider that as we're going through this. A kaiju is already attacked, and as we'll get to in this creation process, it's already destroyed a place in your home. So let's start with your home first. Your home is kind of like a character as well in this game. So Jeff, first thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick a playbook. There are a couple different playbooks you can choose from. Are any of them catching your eye?
I am really drawn to one in particular. I know that you have chosen the Outrider, which watches the world, protects your home through keen observation and astute awareness. And I feel like if we've got like an Outrider, somebody like out on the edge, kind of, I feel like what we need is really like an anchor point to really bounce off of that. And I think that I feel like the Royal really like connects that energy.
Totally.
There's a real dynamic there that I think is very compelling. So I'm feeling drawn towards the Royal.
Awesome. Yeah, the Royal's one of my favorites. So if you want to write the Royal in, and if you want to pick a name for your home as well, there's some name examples on page 5, but you can pick anything. Think of this as your country name or your culture name or your people name, something that, Canada, the Lost Empire of Thea, something like that, whatever you're feeling the royal country name needs to be.
Yeah. Let me think about this. I am going to go with where am I from? What is the energy that I want to bring into this? I'm going to go. I'm looking partially. I just looked around my apartment and I remembered the little mini that I had next to me that I painted in a panel that I named and that I made exceedingly Philadelphia local. And so my home's name is New Pashunk. I think New Pashunk is the place that I hail from.
I'm very curious to dig into later on where Old Pashunk is, but we'll see. We'll see where that is.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Next thing, if you could choose what your home is known for, there's a table on your Royal Playbook in the top. You can roll, you may choose, or you may make up your own using that as kind of like a thematic idea for it. So
always drawn towards rolling on a random table. It's just it's just juicy. This I really like. I rolled a 4, which is ancient cities, and I really like that dynamic. It speaks a little bit to, or it reminds me a little bit of home a little bit. I think there is very specifically, it makes me think of Philadelphia a little bit because it has that, Philly has a lot of like old, like Revolutionary War, colonial buildings and that kind of like history. But I think I want to push it even further and say this is sort of a Rome aesthetic where there are like straight up ancient, catacombs and columns. But it's very much that sense of like a modern city that like lives amongst millennia old fortress structures.
Totally. So a little bit of like a mix of the metal and the stone, different architectures. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, nice. Big like Colosseum style buildings jutting in the middle of a city street is the best way to describe it.
Very cool, very cool. So now that we have New Pashunk and you're known for your ancient cities, if you could create 5 locations on the map, you get the left side of the map here, since I took the right side. So in either of those continents or islands, if you could create 5 locations, these are your cities or your important cultural sites or the critical infrastructure that define your home. And from a meta level, these are your home's 5 hit points. So when you lose these, your home is dead. So go ahead and create 5 different cities or locations. Yeah.
Totally. I'm going to do it in red. That feels good. And we will, I'm going to put one right on the top of this mountain here. And it's just going to be like a big structure, kind of like a spear type John.
Cool.
And this is going to be labeled as the World Spire.
It's funny because there are certain things that always happen on these maps. People always put something on top of a mountain if they have it in there. It's just like, it seems like we as humans are naturally inclined to build something on top of a mountain. I don't know why. It's awesome.
You see a mountain in a fantasy story and you're like, that's got to have a big object on top of it. That's just
Totally.
satisfying.
Totally.
I'm going to I'm going to do a port. I like a good port. We're going to draw a little port here. We're going to draw some lines here, maybe a boat. That's boat. That's boat adjacent. That's boat adjacent.
It reads. So one important thing, and I think I pulled this from Avery Alder's Quiet Year. All drawings are good enough in this. You don't need to be an artist.
Yeah.
Anything is fine, right? It's just as long as we can all understand what it is. That looks like a boat.
And this is Salmon Bay. I think this is Salmon Bay. Salmon Bay is the fishing port. On this island, I'm going to draw a circle. We're going to put some lines, and we're going to draw a series of things to really emphasize what I am drawing here. I'm putting a Ferris wheel right there on this island because this island is what's the phrase? I gotta hit some synonyms here. What's the phrase? I feel like there's a C word that is a synonym for like shenanigans. I gotta think about it. What are some good shenanigans? Caper. Caper's the word I'm looking for. This is Caper. This is Caper Cove.
Good alliteration.
Which is very specifically like an island, or which is very specifically a shitty island theme park. Very specifically, like not good. It's not a good, and I'm changing the font to it to really emphasize that it's we've got a theme park on the island. I'm also gonna throw in, what else do I want? What's another good vibe that I want to put in here? I'm gonna put in like an out of the way city, out of the way town, all the way here in the back a little bit. I think is the play. Because I love a good small town. I love a good out of the way neighborhood.
It's always out of the way neighborhoods are always great places for your pilots to hail from. You know, they're the farmer, right? The farmer trope coming in. Yep.
And this is Ivy. This is Saint Ivy. Saint Ivy, which is like a small, I'm gonna say in fact, I'm gonna draw here. I'm gonna put this next to this. I'm gonna draw like a cave thing, but I'm also gonna grab a different color to really emphasize the detail about Saint Ivy, which is Saint Ivy is a dying mining town. The mine is dried up, the mine is closed out, and then there is just like a small community that is persisting. We love all of these things. And we are going to put next to Salmon Bay, I'm going to put a big square building. I'm going to put here a nice wooded thing. And I'm going to write here in letters. I'm going to do my best to write this. I gotta represent for myself. I need, and this one just doesn't even get a name. If I'm going to put anything here, it's just going to be there's the boardwalk. We've got the boardwalk, which is nearby to Salmon Bay.
Amazing.
I just, I need a casino and a boardwalk. My Jersey upbringing yearns for a casino and a boardwalk, and so I've put a casino and a boardwalk.
Amazing. So this is awesome. First off, can you tell me, now that you've got the entire picture there, tell me a little bit about New Pashunk. Like, what's its vibe? What does it look like? You've already told us about those cities, but sell me on it. Tell me what it looks like, and after you're done, I'll tell you about my home as well.
New Pashunk, I get the vibe that New Pashunk, is, I still really love the aesthetic of old, almost Roman era buildings that have sort of been repurposed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of, it was in ancient times, maybe like a seat of empire, but that empire has sort of fallen and sort of like shifted. That history still remains. There are still those very large ancient Romanesque buildings, and like that spreads kind of across the entire country. The sort of colossus of the sort of colossus wonder of the world is the World Spire, which is like a giant sort of a spear or sword or something that was planted at the top of a mountain. And a lot of like towns and places that have sort of built into the ruins of these ancient cities.
Very cool.
And I get the sense from everything that is here that it is a very, that play is a very important thing, and specifically that, like, it is, very almost touristy. I get the sense very similar to a Rome or to an old city, Philadelphia, that tourism is like a prominent thing, or was in the pre-kaiju days, which is why they have things like an island-sized theme park and a boardwalk and the spire is maintained and all these kinds of things. Like, it is the image of all of those things, and image in general, I think, is very important to the kingdom of New Pashunk.
Very cool. That's amazing. Now, I see that Ferris wheel sitting right on that island, and
yes,
for folks that aren't aware, it's very close to a little chevron right in the center of the map, which is where the rift is. The place where the kaiju come from. Now, the last thing that you need to do, remember we said that this is 1 year after that first attack. So if you could take a great big X, and if you could put it through one of those locations that has already been destroyed, that would be great.
I can. I'm deciding if I want it to be Caper Cove or not. Like, it's so tempting to make it the thing that is inside the blockade area, very close to the rift point, but I don't think that's quite where I want it to hit.
If you were on that Ferris wheel when the kaiju came out and destroyed one of those other cities, it would be a very eventful sight to watch.
Maximum drama, maximum visual. The first thing that we see of New Pashunk is the crumbled World Spire. It's like a gigantic sculpture of a longsword or a claymore that like looks like it was stabbed by the gods themselves into this mountain, and now it is broken in half, and like the shattered remnants reel the broken sword of Narsil stabbed into this mountain. Like, it's crumbled in there. And that's such an evocative first thing to see, is like a broken sword buried in a mountain. That totally feels like it's got to be the first play.
Amazing. Thank you. That's so New Pashunk is awesome. Let me tell you about the Ada Shogunate. So I was the Outrider. Yeah. The Ada Shogunate, I think, is a little bit different than New Pashunk, where you're kind of outgoing and flashy, I would say. You've got a big building that says casino on the side. We're the ones that hide away a little bit more. We stay within our big cities, but they're all within, the forests. They're all within the mountains. They're a little less approachable than I think New Pashunk is. We're specifically known for the shadowed paths, which I envision to be like a shrine down on the southern island, where some of our culture go to maybe become warriors. It's a place where you go into, let's call it some unknown world, a shadow world, if you will. Very dangerous. People don't often come back. But that's your like trial that you go through, and it's a very sacred place for the Edo Shogunate. And then I've got 4 other cities on here. Hiramori, which is the I would say the equivalent to your World Spire, the tall tower on the top of a mountain, the place where, is our capital. Ishikama, a small city where we also do some mining. Tokita, a little vacation spot on an island, and Akashi, which is a port city with my equivalent of sailing ships. And I imagine we probably pass resources back and forth between those as well.
Yeah, I think there's like an established, there at least was at one point. Now there's very specifically the blockade between our 2 big port cities, which I think is complicated things.
Yes, and I think likewise. I think it's got to be Akashi. It's the location that's right on the edge of the blockade, right closest for me at least to where the rift opened. I think that's what the kaiju took down out of its first thing. So that's what's going to be destroyed there.
Okay, yeah.
The ruins of the port city. Awesome. So we've got New Pashunk, we've got the Edo Shogunate, we've got our 2 homes. And we've already lost a little section of them. Let's go ahead and build out our pilot. And pilots are pretty straightforward. You just need a name. You need a connection. A connection is, think of something that they fight for, right? It could be a relative, a parent, a loved one, a sister, a sibling. It could be a friend, a pet. It could be a concept, right? Like your community or the idea of revenge. Think of what you fight for when the chips are down. We'll see what your pilot looks like.
All right, I've got my connection. It's what's been on my mind in the last week, and I think it's a very fun angle for. I've written down the memory of the Pashunk ogres. I think the Pashunk ogres were our, let's say lacrosse team. I think that's fun. That's a good like physical sport. Yep. I think in a world in which, in the year that has followed, I think like sports has died out, or at least like televised, like big business sports has died out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I think that like my pilot's connection is I haven't decided if he is an ex-athlete or just was a fan of like sports, but like that, I've been thinking a lot in the last week or the last few weeks. I think a lot about like sports as community. And I think there's something to that of like, this was a thing that groups of people shared that has died out, and like holding on to that sports team as symbol of like the connections that came from it is the thing that forces him to keep fighting.
What's your pilot's name?
His name is Tyrus Bex.
Amazing. Would you paint me a little scene maybe of Tyrus having the memory of the Pashunk ogres, or them just kind of appreciating their connection? Maybe this is before the first kaiju attack. Paint me a little scene of what that looks like.
Yeah. This painting the scene. As soon as I started to think about the scene, it really affirmed to me that Tyrus is not himself an athlete. It would be tempting to make him a former ogre, but I don't think that's the case. I think it is specifically an image of maybe one of the last tailgates before the first kaiju attack, and it is very specifically like Tyrus pulling up in his car and like unloading three grills, handing out scarves and shirts and like handing out sheets of paper with the team chants written on them so that people would know the team chants, and like leading kind of the booster club and like organizing the booster club tailgate. And a lot of, and like the scenes that we see are little pieces, are like little moments of like, so where are you from? Oh, you're from St. Ivy. Wow. That's a hell of a drive. Like, how is it? I mean, I bet it is, I hear it's beautiful this time of year. And like, He is the person who is like front and center at every Booster Club conversation, happens to like, seems to know every single person by name and happens
Hmm.
to like have those little connections, and like that I think is the thing that he fights for most specifically.
Amazing, amazing. Like a community builder, a community connection. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. If you could mark that your pilot is rank 1, so just check that box because we're both brand new pilots to this. I mean, we've been training for a year, but we are not veterans. We have not fought kaiju before, so this is we are just at the beginning. Amazing. Let me tell you about my pilot. So my pilot's name is Sora Okada, also pilot rank 1, and she is, I'm going to say, maybe like a 25-year-old young woman who is part of, let's say, like the Shogun's family, or she's a part of the ruling family, and her connection is her father, Kenji. Let's say he's the Shogun of this entire kind of culture. I think Sora is she's one that wants to do really well. She wants to impress her father. And I think if I was to paint a scene for this, I think it's Sora stumbling out of the shadowed paths. Maybe there's like a little, shadowy portal between some old ruins that are down in the south. Her father Kenji is there with his entourage, and she's stumbling out, traumatized and bruised, and barely making it through this trial. And she looks up to her father for approval, and her father gives her just the slightest of smile, but that's it. Just nothing coming from him. And so she is seeking his approval, I think. She wants to impress him through her actions. So that's Sora. And I think they're both from Hiramori up in the top. I feel like that's where they're from.
Love it.
Yeah. Now, we've got our pilots, we've got our homes. Let's build out our mechs. So again, the same thing. There's a couple, should be your playbook if you want for rolling on these tables. You need a name. Obviously, every mech needs a cool name. You need a frame, which kind of describes the shape of your mech. But again, it's very narrative, so use it however you'd like. You've got a primary weapon, again, narrative. So think about what your weapon looks like and think about how you'd use it to fight the kaiju. And you've got an auxiliary system, which maybe augments how you fight. Again, all of these things are very narrative. They're not very crunchy. So use them later on when you describe your mech and how you fight. Use them to kind of flavor how that works.
All right. Let's see. What's my frame looking like? Yeah, that feels cool. I'm feeling good about that one.
I think rolling on tables, having made this game, I feel like I appreciate rolling on tables so much more now. Previously, I
love a good table. Always for me, it's if I've got a bunch of tables to riff on, it just feels the excitement's just there.
Totally. It also just is like one of those creative encouragements. It's it's like you put a couple things together, and then what does that make, right? It's up to you to put that together. I love it.
All right, I have got my mech built out. I'm ready.
Amazing. So you can tell us what it looks like, and then again, maybe envision a little scene where Tyrus sees the mech for the first time, or is training in the mech. Paint me a little picture after you describe it about them with the mech.
The mech's name is Ogre Battle, which is short for Ogre Battle is Forevermore. And the Ogre Battle is very specifically, it leans into the aesthetic of like the ruins and the world spire and all of these things. So it is very ornate, but I specifically wrote down like gladiatorial. Like this thing looks like a stories tall gladiator, giant solar lance in hand. Like this thing, has a real gladiator energy to it.
Amazing.
And the thing that stands out as significant is that it has this like beacon crown. It is a crown that like lights up, and when it lights up, it activates like a beacon that sets all lights upon it. And basically, like, the full effect of that we'll probably figure out in play, but, like, the idea of a beacon that sets all eyes in the universe upon it is such a compelling, like, system and feature that I needed to include it on there. And
Yes.
I think the thing that we see is, it's Tyrus in like the backseat of a truck being driven along all of these back roads. We see the broken spire in the distance. Just like constantly on the horizon, you see that broken sculpted sword sticking out of the mountain. He's driving in the back of this truck, and I think we see him on his phone. Talking to his brother. Like, yeah, I don't know why they picked me. It could have been it could have been anybody. I mean, maybe it's because I'm great. Maybe they just know that I'm the best that there is. And like is just gushing with this like kind of tongue-in-cheek, like laughing about the uncertainty to hide the fact that he truly does not know why he has been put into the back of this truck. And they finally like turn a corner and he's mid-sentence like, yeah, I don't know, maybe they just realized that nobody in this thing can tell a goddamn joke, and I think I gotta call you back. Drops the phone into the seat of the truck and just like stares at it for a while and goes, so what, you want me to like clean it? This is a janitorial gig?
Yes. Amazing.
And is just baffled by the existence of this thing.
That's amazing. I love how charismatic Tyrus is. I feel like he's such a good community person. He's just so charismatic. One question though, Ogre Battle. What color is Ogre Battle?
Oh, that's a really good question. It is, I think it's metallic green. I think.
Cool.
I think I think to really lean into the ogre, it is like a metallic green, such that what it is a metallic green that shines, but shines in a way that also like evokes very specifically oxidized bronze. So like it matches a lot of the like bronze statues that you might see in some of the older ruins. So it is that very oxidized green kind of Statue of Liberty sculpture color that is a bronze statue that has been exposed to the elements, but it is like a manufactured, so it still has that like electric shine to it when the light hits it in a specific way. Very
cool. I love it. I can't wait to see what Tyrus does with this. Awesome. So my mech is a little different. My mech's name is Ghost. Ghost has a very agile frame, so I'd think, thin and fast and light. And I think there's like a huge thruster on the back that kind of jets it around to places. Its primary weapon is gravity bombs, which I kind of imagine just like, almost like a Samus bomb that shoot out and like home in on things.
Sure.
Especially because its auxiliary system is a threat lock. So I imagine there's lots of, from the heads-up display, there's lots of little, targets that get identified and locked onto, and then we just launch these gravity bombs. And if I was to imagine a scene, I think it's Sora piloting Ghost, but we're not seeing it from that angle. We're seeing it from her father, Kenji, watching it on a screen at the top of the Hiramori big skyscraper, probably like, the Shogun's office at the top. And Kenji is just watching Sora and Ghost do a bunch of training, maybe in the northern part of the island. All of these targets are popping up and she's launching these gravity bombs at them, destroying them with like perfection, a true warrior spirit. And we just kind of see that little smile just on the side of Kenji's face again. Maybe impressed, but never trying to show it, even if he's far away. And I feel like that's how we see Ghost. Ghost is black and fast, and I don't know. It feels kind of threatening for hopefully he's kaiju. I think that's Ghost.
Yeah, love this.
Nice.
Love this.
Nice. Okay, so we've got our home, we've got our pilots, we've got our mech. We're going to kind of define out the front. And the way that this game works is there's 3 scenarios. We're only going to play through the first one here. And these are our fronts where we The first one, we're going to fight the kaiju as it comes into our world. In future fronts, we go into the rift and fight the kaiju in their world. But for this one, let me read you just a little thing here to set the scene. So front one is the blockade. It is 1 year since the first invasion. The past year has been hard. Engineers barely slept as they built the mechs, and pilots spent countless hours in training. Scientists studied the rift with every possible sensor, and we prepared the blockade, the emergency shelters, and the warning systems. We've pushed as if every day is our last, because it very well could have been. The wailing sirens mean the day has come and the rift is open again. We have no idea when they will arrive, but it's inevitable now. The kaiju are coming. We need to keep them within the blockade and away from our cities. We need to stop them before they reach our homes. It's time to show us what your mech can do, pilot. Good luck. And just for context, your mech is now ready for combat. It has 2 health, just a few health points on there. But the kaiju is a Nova class kaiju, and it has 3 health. So the kaiju are always just slightly more powerful than our mechs. It also will, the first time, it destroyed 1 city. This time, if we don't destroy it, it will destroy 2 locations in your home. So it kind of escalates in terms of the size and the danger of these kaiju. With all that behind us, we haven't been doing nothing over this past year. We need to create our upgrades in our home. So you should have a starting upgrade in your playbook, I believe, for the Royal. It is the Monument. Perfect. So can you draw a monument in your home anywhere?
Yes.
The way that upgrades work is they give you a little benefit to one of the preparation moves later on. So specifically for yours, right? You're the Royal. So you get a little extra bonus whenever you rally the people. So, that might be a move that you want to do later on, but it'll give you a bonus when you rally the people. Mine is the Research Institute. And I think I'm going to draw a big domed research institute where maybe we're studying like pieces of the Aether and parts of the old kaiju that were destroyed or whatnot. I feel like that's what our research institute is.
Love that. I am drawing on the second island. That is
an epic monument.
This is the new Ogre Stadium. We don't know when it will be used. I think it is unclear when and if it will be used, but they have constructed, I think partially at Tyrus's insistence, they have constructed like a new stadium for the Ogres. I think like there was a televised, I think what we see is there was a televised interview, right? When they broke ground on the new stadium, Tyrus like in the flight suit, in the pilot suit, and just, on camera, like, listen, season's going to be starting up soon. Rift's going to be closed soon. We're going to need a stadium to play. We want our team to know that we're out there for them. So we're building a new stadium. Go Ogres.
Yes. It's so good. I love how he has pull now too. He's like not just a community leader. He's got the ear of important people.
I think he's leaned into that kind of in the like, almost in the like, shallowest way possible. I think that like it's sort of a like he has the ear of the people in power now. He has this, and in a lot of ways he's sort of just using that to like hook up his community, and like, it's a very I'm here to have fun with my friends, I think, type thing that he's how he's reacting to being someone in a position of power.
Amazing. That's awesome. So you've got your monument, the New Ogre Stadium. I've got my research institute, which actually I think was in the background of Ghost doing that fighting scene or that training scene. The research institute was behind it, obviously. We've got our upgrades now. There's a couple questions I want to ask about our home. So who is our home's closest ally or sworn enemy? How are our homes related, do you think?
That's a really good question. I go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like we have some opposites in terms of like our charismatic presence. I feel like yours is very much like, tourism, culture, put casino on the side of a building. Mine is like hide in the trees. but that doesn't mean we can't be allies. Or
And I
does
think
it?
I think that kind of like opposites attract energy as I think what specifically like appeals to me, especially because we have, port cities, we have like a long time trading relationship. I think there is like uh a political a political and economic alliance here that has lasted for a very, very long time between our two countries. Like, culturally we might be extremely different, but there is like a sense that the two of us have sort of relied on each other for kind of as long as we can remember.
Yeah. What about beyond the borders of the maps? Are there other homes or other places that we care about, or are they kind of just like places we trade with? Like, what do you think goes beyond the borders of the maps?
I love there being other countries. I think that it is a certain degree because I think like that ties into the idea that tourism is a very big thing for New Pashunk. I think there is a sense of other countries being sort of tied to that sense of like we play the part to a lot of these other countries beyond the map as sort of come visit, come see our history, come see our big buildings at our casino.
Yep, makes sense. Cool. Next question. How did your home help create the blockade? And we can draw it on the map if we want. So I think that my home, since I'm kind of all about like, the Outriders about surveillance or like watching from afar, I feel like I put little sensor systems all around. Do you mind if I put one even in your home? Little sensor system? Cool. So I'm gonna draw those in, little like sensor systems. What did your home do to create the blockade?
Tying into I've tapped a lot into the casino. I've tapped a lot into the into the casino, into the monuments. I'm gonna tap into the mine here, and I'm just gonna draw some big circles here to say like it was a very specific, and I think if you're cool with it, I'm gonna do the same thing on your side. I think it is like, for lack of a better way to put it, like kind of a sandbag situation. Like it is a very like it was a mined and engineered like the physical half of the blockade. So like the actual like landmass blockers that like serve to physically block kaiju from breaking the bounds of the blockade. Like they built a very specific using a lot of the natural resources that we've pulled from our mines. Like they built effectively underwater sandbags or like or deep sea mines or whatever you want to call them. Like they physically built, the physical half of the blockade came from New Pashunk.
Cool. I love it. It's great. So we've got our blockade set up. Now we've said the rift is in the center, but we haven't actually said what the rift is. So there's a little table at the bottom of page 15, or you can roll and roll a d6, and I can tell you what the center of what the rift is if you want.
Give me a 5.
A crack in reality. Can you draw just a quick crack in reality right in the center of the map there?
Yeah. There we go.
Amazing.
Crack.
I imagine that is like, if it is at the bottom of the ocean or the bottom of that water, I imagine as ships go over top, there's probably like their sensors go wild. They have strange dreams. All sorts of weird stuff happens.
Can I pitch you a very specific thing that happens? Everything, the ocean, when you pass over the crack, the ocean stops.
Cool. Yes.
It's just all currents, all movement. The ocean, you go from being on the ocean to being like perfectly glass floor still. And
that's cool.
That is a disorienting and nauseating effect to go from like full movement to no movement back to full movement. Boats get stuck there, which is terrifying because that's when a kaiju comes out. Like the ocean, the movement of the ocean just stops.
So cool. I imagine that's really tough for our sailing ships too that have big sails on them. Probably got stuck there a bunch. Yeah, not great. Cool. Great. So we have all of that set up. Now there's one more thing that we need to create. And I mentioned this before, but this is a GM-less game. So there's no facilitator. Who's going to be the kaiju? Well, you're going to be my kaiju and I'm going to be your kaiju. So we get to do this part, and we're going to do it in secret. Instead of telling each other now, just like a good kaiju movie, we're going to reveal it later on when it's appropriate. So if you could maybe do this on a piece of paper or something close to you, not on our Miro screen, if you could create your kaiju by selecting a name, a category, and a trait. And there's a bunch of options on page 23 if you'd like to think of your kaiju.
Yes.
Now, like I said, this is something that we'll keep secret and we'll reveal during the showdown. But as we do our preparation moves, which we'll do in a second, if you feel like there's a spot where you want to drop a hint, maybe do a little foreshadowing with some evidence or dreams or premonitions, feel free, right? Feel free to foreshadow my kaiju as I'm doing things, and I will do the same for you.
Cool.
We've got everything set up on the world building part. We're just about to go into the preparation. And like I said, the preparation is where we start to build up our dice pool and prepare to fight the kaiju. But there's one last thing that I need you to do, and we're both going to do it. We'll start with you, is embrace our connection. So this might be the last time you get to see your connection. This is quite a deadly game. Your pilot might not survive. So could you paint me a little scene of your pilot and their connection just as the front begins? So this is like after the warning sirens, just before everything goes to shit. What are you doing with your connection?
It's fully talent borrows and genius steals. It is fully we watch Tyrus in the scene before the title match from the first Rocky.
Yes.
He is walking around New Ogre Stadium. He is walking on the field, something that he never thought he would be allowed to do. Just like strolling, looking at the posters, looking at the player photos, like taking it all in. He is looking at these giant torches that they have outside, walking outside the building and just strolling. And he, finally finds himself in the stands and like sings to himself the ogre's fight song quietly to himself. Like he sits, he's watching, he's singing the fight song to himself, and then he takes a deep sigh and like squares his shoulders. And I think we see that ogre battle is outside. Like we see that he has taken the mech here. We now hear, now that we're out of his head, we hear that the sirens are already going. Like he has waited. He is like en route to answering the siren, stopped here and like walked this and had this moment.
Amazing. It's so good. That's awesome. Likewise, I think Sora is also in a kind of similar situation. She's in the research institute. She's on the big, metal walkways that are loading her into Ghost. All of the research scientists are backing off, kind of, all the steam is coming out of Ghost joints and whatnot. And it's basically that final launch. And I think her father, Kenji, is standing up in one of the observation rooms above. And she looks up to catch his eye, and they just share a little nod at each other. And she turns around, with that being the only thing that her father gives her. She walks into Ghost, determined to prove to her father that she's worthy of this battle. And I think that's her last potential connection with her father. Good. We've got all the emotions out of the way. Let's start preparing for battle. So we're going to do 3 different preparation moves. And this is our way that we build up our dice pool to basically fight the kaiju. If you want to turn to page 28, I'll tell you the different preparation moves you can do. You can't do any of them twice, but you could, pick any 3 that you'd like. You may study the kaiju. You may rally the people. You may build an outpost. You may unite the nations. You may search the aether, or you may gear up. And all of those have pretty broad kind of, narrative implications about what you'd like to do. So what do you think you would do for your first preparation move?
I mean, I feel like it's gotta be rallying the people, right? I think that's in some ways why this is the moment where we see in some ways why they handed this particular mech to this particular schlub is like, we finally see, stepping into the water. I think stepping to the shore, lance in hand, ogre battle like stands and like mirroring Tyrus's body a little bit. We see ogre battle shake out its shoulders and adjust its neck and finally start just like slamming the lance on the ground, and like we are hearing just the stomping from everybody from this giant crowd that has gathered. Just stomp, 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 stop. And I think like Tyrus, like you watch the uncertainty leave his body and leave his face as he's like, time to go put on a show.
That's awesome. So first off, amazing. Second off, now is the time to roll, because you've described what you're going to do for your preparation, but we don't know if your preparation was successful or had a mixed result, or maybe was not as good as you'd hope. So the way that this works is that you have a preparation track on your sheet. You have one boon dice kind of listed. The way that this works is it's D6s. You've got half that are one color that are your boon dice, half that are another color that are your bane dice. You've got one on your preparation track, one boon dice, and you've also got a monument, which gives you an extra. So you're going to roll 2 boon dice, and similar to, like, let's say Blades in the Dark, a 6 is a full success, a 4 or 5 is a partial success, and a 1, 2, or 3 is a failure. It's the highest die that matters. So why don't you roll and tell us what you get?
2 boon dice, or am I adding a negative dice as well?
Nope, you only have 2 boon dice at this part. You have no negative dice yet.
All right, that is a 4. That is a partial success.
Awesome. So if you want to mark a boon and a bane symbol in that next box, basically you're accumulating 1 extra boon dice and 1 extra bane dice for your future rolls.
Got it.
And tell me, why was this successful, yet what is the lingering doubt that's happening here? Where's the worry that's happening?
I think that the success is that, like, the success is everybody in this room, everybody in this crowd, like stomping and cheering and chanting and like getting all on board. And I think the uncertainty, the worry, the setback is once ogre battle like gets into the water, that sound washes away almost immediately. Like it is the excitement of the crowd, but then like once you're surrounded by the sound of the currents and the washing of waters, you can't hear that crowd noise anymore. And like that excitement and that energy and that momentum doesn't last. Like it is a very kind of like fleeting thing to get you in the water, but it doesn't necessarily hold after that.
Yep. Amazing. If you want to draw or represent this preparation on the map somewhere, just a little symbol or a drawing of how you're prepared, feel free to do that. As you are doing that drawing, I will tell you about my first preparation move, because I'm going to build off of yours. I am going to unite the nations, which is, visiting another nation, hosting a summit, secretly manipulating events. But this is not secret, because Sora is taking Ghost, and just after your big stadium, stadium presentation, the excitement of the stadium, the noise kind of echoing out of it, just as everybody is perhaps leaving the stadium, they all see Ghost kind of fly in and land just outside the stadium. So we see the 2 massive mechs kind of on either side of the stadium, your big green ogre battle and the tall, skinny Ghost. And Sora gets out and she's waiting to meet you kind of between the 2 of them. I assume you're gonna go and join her?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a slow, almost like putting on a show of a walk, but it is like a steady walk out into the water to meet Sora and Ghost and like just kind of stand facing each other.
And Sora Sora's very, dour. She's, not as boisterous or charismatic as you, but she understands the gravity of the situation. She holds out a hand and she says, my name's Sora. When the time comes, can I trust you?
Name's Tyrus, and I mean, I don't feel like either of us have much of a choice, so yeah, sure.
Great. I am going to roll here. I start with one boon dice. I don't get any extra because I don't have an upgrade for Unite the Nations. But I am going to ask to use a special move, which is Team Up. So I'm going to ask you if you would help me in this Uniting of the Nations and give me an extra dice. It's one of the special moves that are there. So let me roll and we'll see how this actually turns out. So I'm rolling 2 boon dice. I got a 5. So similar to you, that's a boon and a bane. It's a success, but there's a lingering doubt. As we shake hands, I think there's, that bit of magic that happens between 2 mech pilots in the sense that, we are both capable, but we're also kind of the only hope for our people. What is the doubt that's going through my mind? What do you think it is right now?
I am going to lean into the difference in like who we are.
Mm-hmm.
You are a trained expert in this, and like even from the momentary interaction that we've had, it is very clear I am just some guy. Like it is very clear that like I'm just a guy.
Yes, I have been training. I have literally walked the shadowed paths. I have done the trials. I am ready for this fight, and yeah, you are just some guy.
my like personnel record pops on screen, and it's truly like middle manager of a manufacturing facility that made like children's toys or something. Like,
yes,
it truly like it is the most like ordinary guy background, and you're just like, there's nothing in here that indicates any kind of like military or significant expertise.
I hold my breath. I hold my comment. As I get back into Ghost, I look back at Ogre Battle, and I'm like, at least he has that mech. That's gotta amount to something. The
second that you look back, Ogre Battle throws you a thumbs up.
Great, wonderful. Cool. So we have done our first preparation move. I've marked it on the map. I drew a little ghost mech beside your new Ogre Stadium. What are you going to do for your second preparation move?
I'm gearing up. I think what it is I start walking next to Ghost, and we see the crown light up, and all across, we get an entire montage of like every TV screen flashing as satellites and cameras zoom in on our 2 mechs, and like alongside that we see like orbital missiles and every like floating drone gun. Like it's all eyes, all weapons, all everything is just like hovering and floating around us, furthering that idea that Ogre Battle does not fight alone. Like Ogre Battle is the spear of the entire nation, like walking with every step that it takes.
Very cool. Well, let's roll to see how this actually turns out for you.
Let's roll.
You've got 2, if you look at your preparation track, you've got 2 of those circles and one of the Bane symbols. So you're going to roll 2 boon dice and 1 Bane dice. The way that Bane dice work is they cancel anything that they match.
Okay. That's a win. That's a 6. That's a flat. That's a 6. And then the 3 is canceled out by the Bane dice, but that is exactly what we wanted to happen.
That's exactly right. So you're going to mark a boon symbol there, and tell me, why is this so good? Why does this go exactly as planned?
I think it is specifically playing to the like uncertainty a little bit, and it is specifically it's Tyrus knowing people, and Tyrus, like, this was a timed thing. I think Tyrus, even through the mech, could read Sora's body language, and this is a moment of like, sometimes what you need is a guy that people are willing to rally around, and we're watching that rallying happen all around us in real time.
Amazing. Love it. Good second preparation. Mark it on the map if you'd like.
Yeah.
For my second preparation, I think I am going to. I think Sora jets out of there after our interaction, leaves the cheering stadium, leaves you behind, and jets all the way back to the research institute. I feel like she's worried, and she needs to double check let's say the early scans that they've done of the rift. She's going to go into the research institute, into some of the like sunken labs in the basement, and she's going to study the kaiju by looking at all of the research that they've been doing on it. I'm going to roll. So I get 2 boons, 1 bane, plus I have a research institute upgrade. So I actually get 3 boons for this. So nice. Let me roll and see what I get. All right. So I got a 5, a 3, a 4, and the 3 cancels out with that bane. So a 5 is my highest. So I'm also going to get another 1 and a 1. Now, this is successful in terms that I get what I want. So I think as she's down there, the scientists are happy. They feel like they're making progress. They feel like they're understanding parts of the rift. They feel like they're getting some signals that will be uploaded into Ghost that will help me fight the kaiju. But there's something that is worrying them. And because I'm studying the kaiju, would you mind foreshadowing a little bit? What are they worried about? What am I worried about specifically with my kaiju? What are we sensing?
It's quiet, too quiet.
Okay.
There does not appear, like, energy readings are off the charts. Energy readings are terrifyingly high. And yet there is no like wake, there is no water breaking, there are no waves crashing, there is no movement. It is just an overwhelming surge of energy, and it is inexplicable.
Interesting. I'm going to draw a little energy meter here with the energy going off the charts. Interesting. Again, Sora's got mixed emotions with this. She feels like the scientists are happy, but I don't know. She's been through enough that she knows that with a little bit that's, raising the hairs on the back of her neck, she doesn't trust that. Okay. So that was my second preparation move. What are you going to do for your third?
I am going to building an outpost, and I think we see walking, I think between Caper Cove and the Rift, like walks out into the water, points out Ogre Battle's hands on both sides, one of them still wielding the lance. And we watch every single like automated drone and satellite and everything like form basically like a gunner wall.
Oh, cool.
All along the outer edge of Caper Cove to kind of like close in that barricade a little.
Awesome. That's amazing. Let's see how your roll goes to see how good it actually turns out.
All right, that's 3 boons and a bane.
Yep.
That's so bad. That's a tie. A high result of a. Here's the thing: my bane was a 2, which is great because it canceled out a 2, but it doesn't help the fact that the other 2 results were 3s.
Exactly. Now let me give you have a couple special moves if you want. You can improvise, which allows you to reroll 1 boon. You get to use that once per pilot rank. You can also remember why you fight, which allows you to reroll everything, but you only get to use these once for the entire front, which means that you won't get to use them in the showdown later on. So up to you if you want to keep your bad result or if you want to try to reroll one of those. Or all of them.
I'm gonna hold on to the bane. I think I'm all right. Yep. I think I'll be okay. I think 3-2 is still pretty good.
That's not bad. That's not bad. But tell me, as you're building this, what's the lingering worry? What's going wrong, or what are you concerned about?
I think it's that I've seen guns used on kaiju before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it is a certain degree of, I think in the back of Tyrus's mind, he knows this is theater. He knows that like a gunner wall this close to the rift is going to accomplish less than nothing. Like, I think I have been told to establish this, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I see right through this, and I'm in the pilot's chair. Every person watching this on TV is going to have the exact same response.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's fair. It's just show. Yeah. Awesome. Feel free to draw that on the map. And as you do that, I will do my last preparation move. And I am going to search the Aether. Now, we didn't really mention this before, but the Aether is kind of like the magical aspect in this. It's something that came through from the rift, found in kaiju. We get to kind of determine, together whatever it really is for us. We haven't really done much of that yet, but I think that the shadowed paths, that like little portal that we go through to train our warriors and to, have our trials, I think that there's a connection there. And so we maybe don't think it has any connection to the rift, but it's magical. It's the only magical thing around here. So I think that Sora is going to go to the shadowed paths once more, not with her father, not with any entourage, just by herself. And she gets out of Ghost and she lets Ghost stand beyond the pillars. And she walks up to the portal and the darkness, the place that she barely escaped from a long time ago. And she walks in. And I am going to roll to see how this goes. So I've got 3 boon dice and 2 bane dice. Let's see. Yeah. I have a 6, a 3, and a 1 on my boon dice. And I have a 6 and a 4 on my bane dice. So that's going to cancel.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'm going to mark that down there. I'm also going to save my other improvise for later. I walk into the shadowed paths. The darkness surrounds me, the feeling of otherworldliness. The fear comes back from that time in the trials that I went. And I think I start seeing visions of something terrifying. Do you want to add a little bit to this again? Maybe from the kaiju of what I'm seeing as I'm walking through these dark paths?
Yes, I do. You see a city around you. You see Akashi. You see Akashi mid-destruction. Mm-hmm. But you very literally see it mid-destruction. You can reach out and touch the explosions and kind of feel them ripple in your hands. And like it is you are amidst a moment of the destruction of the city.
Whoa. I think Sora runs out. I think Sora quickly tries to find her way out of that, leaves the shadowed paths panting and sweating, and gets back into Ghost, realizing that she might have failed this trial. And so that's my last preparation move. I'm gonna mark that down here. I'm gonna put like a partial explosion. I think like an explosion almost frozen in time around it. Great. So with our preparation moves done, how did you do? What's your preparation track at right now?
My preparation track is at 3 boons and 2 banes, which is pretty good.
Okay, yeah, you're feeling pretty good about that? Okay.
Feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I've got 3 boons and 3 banes. I don't know how I'm feeling about that, especially with the ending of that. I don't know. I feel a little bit nervous. But we've done all the preparation that we need to do. So we've got our preparation done. We've got all of the dice that we're going to accumulate for this. It's time to show down with the kaiju. Now, you're first. So what we're going to do is a little bit different for this one. We're going to play out your entire showdown. So basically, we're going to see what happens, whether you kill the kaiju or your mech or your pilot die completely, and then we'll do the same for mine.
Cool.
The way that we start this off is I need you to tell me where Tyrus and Ogre Battle are setting up. Where are you preparing for this?
I think
fight?
Directly in front of the gun wall. I think we are right, basically like right against the rift. We're catching this thing as soon as it emerges.
Amazing, amazing. You look out over the water and you notice the stillness that all of those sailors see as they pass through it. You notice that stillness start to emanate out until a huge area is completely still. And you start to see these little electrical jolts and sparks start to pass through the water. You see your system start to flicker a little bit as the electricity hits Ogre Battle. And this massive thing starts to arise out of the water. You think it is almost like an oversized gorilla, but it looks as if it has spikes all emanating out of its back. You see that it all between the spikes are little arcs of electricity, and your HUD, your heads-up display in your mech says "Kaiju identified, Reaver." So if you want to type in on your pilot sheet Reaver as the name of the kaiju that you're going to be fighting, it's going to come at you in a second.
Cool. Love it. Love it. Done.
Now, Reaver is approaching you, but you basically get to do all of the dice rolls for this. You have, again, there's a couple special moves that you can use. I have one special move, the ultimate power, that I get to use at some point to basically use my kaiju's ultimate power. You have the ones I previously mentioned, plus also detonating your core, which I hope you don't have to use. But at this stage, just tell me what you do, and when you're ready, when you feel like you're ready, roll those dice, and we'll see what happens.
I think Ogre Battle like stands and like waits for Reaver to approach, and I think very similar deal to before, like holds the lance before finally like repositioning and holding this lance, which I'm picturing is a little bit of like almost like a glaive, like a big pole arm type thing, and partially like repositioning it to not quite hold it as a lance, but hold it very specifically as a lacrosse stick. And then just like batter up, swing for the fences to come bring this lance crashing down on Reaver, and like getting up close and personal and just like brawling it the fuck out.
It's coming at you almost like a lacrosse player tackling you. Give me that roll and let's see what happens.
All right. That's a good roll. That is a my boon dice are a 1 or a 2, 2, and 6.
Ooh,
my
nice.
bane dice are a 1 and 3, which means nothing gets canceled out, and it's a high roll of 6.
So a 6, similar to before, except a 6 means that you do 1 damage to the kaiju. So mark 1 of those health off of its 3, and tell me what this looks like as it basically tackles you. The electricity is surging through your mech circuits. How do you damage it for that first time?
I think I just bury. I think it is fully just like the lance is, buried. We see actually like Ogre Battle's hip joints pull a full 360, so it turns into just swinging this lance in a full arc as I just tear into this thing with one mighty sweep. Guts and viscera fly everywhere.
Amazing. It gets knocked to the side. Did you say, was there any matching boon or bane dice for that last roll?
There were none whatsoever.
Okay, that's good. If they do match, they get removed from the pool, so you don't get to use them again. It's your mech deteriorating, but you're good. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that Reaver gets knocked over to the side. It tries to circle around you a little bit more, and when you're ready, re-rack and re-roll.
Okay. Re-rack, re-roll. What this looks like is spins And like as Ogre Battle is getting back into position, it's time for the gunner wall, right? Like now it's time for the full battalion fire, missiles and guns. As Ogre Battle, lance in hand, just like points, aims to point one finger, but points two fingers in a kind of rock and roll point, and is fully like leaning into it as just a wave of fire comes crashing down.
Yes.
That is we got some mech deterioration here. I've rolled a 4, 4, and 6. Yep. Bane dice are 1 and 6, so my 6 goes away, and I lose that dice. But so now I've got a 4, 4, and a 1, which means it is still a partial success. Yep. Still a partial success.
So 1 health off of you and 1 health off of the kaiju. So you're based, I imagine that Reaver, as this fusillade comes down from the gun wall, it takes it in the side, but it's also charging you again. And this time it makes contact, knocking you off of your feet and pushing you past the gun wall, past the Ferris wheel of Caper Cove, and into, and I'm going to draw it on the map here, in towards the little bay by Salmon Bay and the casino. So I imagine people are looking at the casino and seeing this fight happening. So because I've done 1 damage to you, we get to move outside of the blockade a little closer to your home. But again, we've both got 1 health left. Re-rack and re-roll, and let's see what happens.
That's good. That's great. That's great. That's double 6s and a 2 on the Bane dice. That's what we want to see.
Well, hold on. Before that happens, tell me what you're doing, and I'm going to use my ultimate power and see if I can get rid of those 6s.
Okay. Yeah. I think what it is I think as it gets hurtled backwards, gets crashed into the water, stands up. Lance no longer in hand. I think Lance buried into like the side of into some rocks similar to the spire behind us. Waits until Reaver gets close, wrap my arms around its midsection, and just fly back with a gigantic German suplex to crash this thing into the ground.
Halfway through the German suplex, all of your systems start to go off the charts. You can start to feel the electricity, the static electricity flow through your skin. You feel like your hair is standing on end. Your muscles start to contract and tense as the energy inside of this kaiju starts to almost explode with electrical energy. I'm going to use my ultimate power, and I'm going to roll 4 Bane dice, and I need to try to get 2 6s on this roll.
Okay.
So let's see.
I think I think Tyrus is muttering, "This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me."
Jeff, I'm sorry. I have a 6, a 6, a 5, and a 2.
Damn.
Now I can leave these. You still have a couple things that you could do.
Yep.
Right. I have to keep these here as a 6, 6, and a 5, and a 2. But you could remember what you fight for, or you could accept this and perhaps try to detonate your core or something. But tell me what's going through your head right now, because it's going to remove both of those 6s, which leaves a. Did you say a 3 was your highest?
No, it leaves a 0. Though I had 2 6s. So it'll leave me with nothing. So I'm gonna remember why I fight, and I think it's just mutter like, here we go, ogre. Here we go, ogres, and like we're gonna re-roll here. That is a 4 and a 2, so that is a partial success, but it is a success that stays in play.
That's right. So you will basically mark a health off of the mech, a health off of the kaiju. The way that it works is that because your mech is down to 0 health, your mech must die, but you can choose whether your pilot survives or not. However, the kaiju is also down to 0 health. So tell me how you kill the kaiju and kind of narrate the scene, what happens.
I think, I think it feels right. I think it feels right to keep with the suplex and just kind of like, I think like mid suplex is like staring almost upside down at that stadium, staring, looking back at the people of Salmon Bay, at the casino, at everything, and just mutters, ogres fight until they can't fight no more and like fall backwards into the water. There is just a gigantic calamitous explosion, and then there is perfect stillness.
Oh, so we can see what happens to Tyrus in a second. We'll do your aftermath in a second, but that's amazing. That's so good. I imagine your casino goers were a little scared, but also kind of appreciating the show that just went on in the middle of that bay. Yeah. Awesome. Good work. You killed the kaiju. That's good. We'll see what happens maybe with the rest of them in a second. Are you ready if I jump into mine?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that Ghost and Sora are standing maybe on one of those big blockade barricades that you put up, the big like physical like you said, like sandbag type things. She's standing with Ghost right over here, a little distance away, not up close like you were, a little distance away since it's our MO. And Sora is sitting quietly with Ghost, the thruster on the back, humming lightly, and she's looking out at the rift. What does she see?
You start to feel a migraine. Like you start to feel halos in the light, and like your eyes kind of squint closed, and you feel a muscle tension and a pain kind of run through your body, and then you blink, and then you see it in front of you. It is an abstract geometric shape.
Whoa.
It is very much like a two-dimensional abstract geometrical shape that is sort of just floating directly in front of you. Like that is the thing that you see, and you are told this is designation still frame.
Oh, sick. That's awesome. I love the like flash, just all of a sudden it's in front of me. I think that Sora, this is frightening because Sora likes to attack from range. She immediately tries to jump back with her boosters. She releases a whole bunch of gravity bombs. The threat lock is going wild since you're so close. And I am going to roll, and let's see what happens. Uh-oh. I have a 5, a 4, and a 3 on my boon dice, and I have a 5, a 4, and a 1 on my bane dice. So I didn't want to have to use it this early, but I'm gonna lose 2 of my boon dice if I keep this. Yeah. I need to remember why I fight. So I think that as I am blasting back from you, releasing these gravity bombs, I see still frame probably blink back in front of me. I feel like I can't get any space from still frame. And there's just this voice in my head, and it's my father's voice that's saying, you're a warrior. You can do this. Prove the family proud. And I think I'm going to re-roll that. She's thinking about her father, and she's got to make him proud. Okay, that's a little bit better. I have a 6, a 4, and a 3. And I have a 5, a 4, and a 3. So actually, that's not that much better because I still lose 2, but I get a 6. So there's a bunch of deterioration that happens. I'm still going to do 1 damage to you. I think that the bombs do end up going off, but they're probably pretty close to me. Maybe hence all this deterioration. What do you think is happening in this little scene here?
You watch very specifically the bombs go off, and then suddenly you feel like you're right back in the shadowed paths, because what you see is the bombs explode, and those explosions freeze in midair.
Of course they do.
They freeze in midair, but they surround still frame. They surround the symbol. And it is clear that they are tearing it to shreds. The symbol is changing, and more points are being added to this symbol, and it's kind of expanding and shifting almost in a way that is chaotic It looks as though it is a geometric symbol that is expanding in pain. It looks like it is a pain reaction. You can tell it is hurting, but It is, but it has perfectly frozen those explosions in midair.
Amazing. Sora, seeing all of these new kind of fractal shapes or these new shapes kind of expand around it, the threat lock is starting to try to lock on to all of these new nodes, but it's having trouble. I only have one Boon Dice and one Bane Dice here, but I'm going to roll it and see what happens. Oh my goodness. I rolled a 1 and a 1, which means this is a critical failure, which means that I get 2 health off of me. I got to improvise. I have to improvise.
You got to improvise.
I got to improvise. I think I turn off the threat lock because the threat lock is probably overwhelmed. And I just, I try to go manual targeting, and I try to target the gravity bombs, not to these extremities, but in the center again. And I rolled a 5. So it's 1 and 1 off of this. What does it look like when you damage my mech?
All of your systems freeze up at the same time. I think it is like all of the like timers, all of the clocks, all of everything freeze. And like it is all of the damage comes from internally, because every computer process, every clock, every timer, everything freezes perfectly in place. And the mech itself starts to overheat, and like there are explosions happening on the inside of the mech as it is starting to like almost implode in on itself.
Amazing. Because I got damaged, you get to move your kaiju in towards my home somewhere outside of the blockade if you want to indicate where it's starting to attack through.
So point me on the map. Where relative? Where you drew? Where you are?
I was here. And I think our fighting was happening right here beside Tokita, kind of.
Got it.
Yep.
So I'm going to take the exact same color that you took, which is this teal. And I think that I'm actually going to push us towards the shadowed paths.
Oh, no.
Specifically.
Oh, no. Okay. I see Still Frame making its way towards the shadowed paths, and almost a deeper anxiety comes over me knowing how important this is. As I chase you, realizing that I'm down to almost nothing. We both have 1 health left. I'm going to roll, see what happens. No. I got a 5 and a 5. That's a critical failure. You do 1 damage to my mech. What does it look like?
What it looks like is time fully flattens. Time fully it collapses in on itself. You see the same way you saw when you were in the shadow paths. You see Akashi mid detonation, perfectly frozen. You see the ogre battle like mid electrical storm, mid suplex, and like all of these things are surrounding you as like time closes in on a single singularity point as it starts to like collapse your mech, collapse the ghost into like a singular point on the still frame.
Just before all of this happens, I am going to choose my last resort, which is detonating my core. So I can do this when I'm down to 0 health. The way it works is basically I roll as many dice as my pilot rank. I'm only pilot rank 1. If I get a 4 or a 5, I do 1 damage to you. If I get a 6, I do 2 damage to you. If I get a 1, 2, or 3, I do no damage to you. So as this is happening, as all of time is stopping, Sora's hand slowly goes down. She's trying to make it fast, but everything is slow. And she's trying to pull the big red lever that says emergency detonation. And as she is doing it, all she can think about is, I'm sorry, Father. And she pulls the big lever. I'm going to roll this 1 die. I got a 3. So I think that what happens is I pull the lever and the mech detonates. And it's all within range of still frame. But all of a sudden, the detonation just stops halfway. Mm-hmm. And still frame goes on to destroy 2 locations. please mark 2 big X's on whichever locations you think Still Frame destroys.
Still Frame, I'm gonna cross out Takeda, and I'm gonna cross out the Shadowed Paths. I think what happens here is the explosion like tears through like it basically like retreats into the Shadowed Paths. It mech in tow brings this like path of collapsed chrono destruction before fleeing back into the Shadowed Lands through the aether from which it came.
Amazing. Before we do the last thing here, which is the aftermath in both of our homes, I forgot one important thing. I need to draw where Reaver died, and you actually no, you don't get to draw because your kaiju's still alive. I'm gonna draw Ghost dead over here on the ground. Put a big X through it. Rip Ghost. And Reaver, I think, is in the bay over here. The big gorilla monster that has like the spikes on it. Also dead on the ground. But maybe before, I don't know if you're going to draw what's going to be over here. Maybe you can tell me your aftermath. So it could be a minute, it could be an hour, it could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year after this. Show me the aftermath of this in your home. And I'm really curious what happened to Tyrus.
The aftermath here is I think we're back in the stadium. And what we see is like several similarly themed kaiju. Just to speak to the options that we didn't take in the book. We've got an like all of them styled up in that same kind of ogre style. We've got an engineer with a big giant laser gun, an enforcer with its big giant blades. There is a console, which is like sort of the leadership position. And in that mech specifically, all of them styled up in that sort of green ogre color. And inside the console, we flash inside and we see Brutus Bex, Tyrus's brother, who's like, ogres fight until they can't fight no more. That's what my brother said once upon a time, and god damn it, we're bringing everything we got into this battle.
Yes.
Ogres! Slams down. All three of them slam down their weapons, and the chanting and the stomping starts again. Tyrus has died, but there is another generation of people that were inspired to fight the good fight in his stead.
Yes. Ogre Avengers. That sounds amazing. So good. Awesome. So Tyrus died. Tyrus actually did die in that one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If you want to draw the final resting place of Tyrus on the map, it's always important to show where they died. And as you do that, I am going to tell you a little bit of the aftermath. I think since you basically destroyed all of the locations in the lower part of my home, all I have left is Hiramori, Ishikama, and the Research Institute. There's a mass migration up to that northern island. I think that there is a fairly large funeral procession that happens outside of Hiramori because Sora was, semi-royalty within the shogunate. And a lot of people are very sad. And I think that the final scene we see as Sora's kind of, the coffin goes and gets put into the mausoleum or wherever it gets put, we see her father, just like a single tear, the sadness of having lost his daughter. And I think that's it. I think that's the last we see of Sora and Kenji after this.
Love that. Love it. And I think that's game.
That's game.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
This was so much fun. I had such a blast. What was your favorite moment from play today?
My favorite moment, I really liked when you were actually drawing your home and you started to put things like the Ferris wheel and the casino, because it gave me such an interesting picture of your home. I was like, wow, okay, I like this, because I'm always surprised by what people make in this, in how they choose to build their homes. I love that part. I thought that was so cool.
Oh, this game was so much fun. The actual fight scenes are so cool and exciting. I like the little ways in which like each section feels really distinct, and like the actions, like it's still the same basis of mechanical play, but the difference in flow is so significant that it really makes it feel like you're stepping into a different phase of play, and I think that's so cool and exciting. And the battles themselves were so great. I want to know, the question that I have for you, what did you roll or come up with? Like, what was your trait and form and everything for your kaiju?
So my kaiju was Reaver. It was an elemental kaiju, and it had the Electropulse trait. What was yours?
Love that. Mine was an Aether-touched kaiju, still frame, and it specifically was a collector with the time slowing ability. So I really was like, what if it collected time and moments, and like, what if that was the thing? And so like, as it was just, so like the idea that it was just like, there was nothing, it was just a symbol that you saw that slowly like consumed things and then preserved the moments of that destruction was very cool. That was the thing that was chasing after.
I may edit my answer from before. I actually think that you having those having like time stop in a bunch of positions, both when I was doing the research in the shadow paths and then in actually when I was fighting it, that was super cool. I thought like that time stop explosion, just chef kiss, so good.
This is why I love rolling on random results, was because I looked at those things and I was like, how do I represent all of this in a way that is cool? And it just slowly, I was like in such a Pacific Rim space of like, it should be a giant lizard that you punch. And then I was really like, what if we got really, really Evangelion with it? And it was just like a weird experimental nightmare that just like slowly unfolded.
It's awesome. So good.
I'm so happy with this. This was great. Thank you so much for playing this with me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for playing with me.
So real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work in the game online?
Yeah, so find everything at deepdark.games. You can find Home there. I've got another game coming out soon, or one page that was released called A Perfect Rock. It's a world-building game where you use rocks to explore planets, and it'll probably be coming to some kind of crowdfunding platform early next year. Yeah, that's probably the best place to find me. I'm on a couple socials, but deepdark.games is the easiest place.
Fuck yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute delight. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Nick for coming on the show. That game it so perfectly embodied like what I was excited about in the game itself, and like getting to immediately jump into this fleshed out world and like embody these characters, and then those big fuck off kaiju mech fights. I could not imagine anything better. Be sure to head to deepdarkgames.itch.io to pick up your own copy of Home, and be sure to head to Kickstarter for the next 6 days to back A Perfect Rock, which is the new planet-building game that uses real rocks to create fantastical worlds for you to explore. Like I said, you can find all of those things in the show notes, and be sure to follow Nick on Blue Sky at deepdark.games.
You can also find us on pretty much whichever social media you prefer, at Party of One Pod or Jeff Stormer, depending.
And if you enjoy the show and you want to support it, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Subscribe to our newsletter at buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast, and join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. You can support us financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. You can give us a nice iTunes review, shout us out to a friend, give us some love on social media. You can buy some Party of One merch at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. Or if you're looking for more great podcast content, you can check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world building podcast that I make with my best friend in the world, Aaron Catano Saez. We take a listener submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. You can also check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast, which is an actual play about a heartless witch, a cozy house, and the many people making their homes inside. Both of those you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Party of One is, as always, produced and edited by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logos by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming on the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And unless I am mistaken, that is all we do here. So until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.